Sandra and Tony had been married for 10 years. Their union was envied by many due to the immense wealth Tony had amassed over the years. He was a self-made billionaire, owning a chain of luxury hotels and real estate across the country. Despite their financial success, there was a void in their lives. Sandra had been unable to conceive a child. Tony was a patient and loving husband. While he often encouraged Sandra to remain hopeful, Sandra secretly battled feelings of inadequacy and fear of losing her place in Tony's life. Her family, especially her younger sister, Linda, often reminded her that she needed to secure her position in the marriage. One day, during a visit to her family home, Sandra confided in Linda. "I'm scared, Linda. What if Tony decides to take another wife? All this wealth, it could slip out of our hands." Linda, sharp and calculating, leaned in. "Why let that happen? Tony is a good man, but we both know the world doesn't reward weakness. If you can't give him a child, we need to find another way to keep the wealth within the family." Sandra looked at her sister, confused. "What do you mean?" Linda smirked. "Let me move into your house. I'll pretend to need a place to stay temporarily. We'll work together to ensure his attention never strays outside. He'll never know what hit him." Sandra was hesitant at first, but Linda's words played on her insecurities. Days later, Linda arrived at their mansion, suitcases in tow. Tony welcomed her warmly, unaware of the plan brewing beneath the surface. The seduction. Linda, beautiful and charming, made her presence felt. She flattered Tony, laughed at his jokes, and subtly highlighted Sandra's insecurities. She began dressing provocatively, ensuring Tony noticed her. Sandra, although complicit, felt pangs of jealousy watching her sister grow closer to her husband. One evening, while Sandra was out at a charity event, Linda seized the opportunity. She cooked Tony's favorite meal, wore an elegant dress, and joined him in the living room. "You've been so kind to me, Tony," Linda said, her voice soft. "I don't know how to repay your generosity." Tony, unsuspecting, replied, "We're family, Linda. Sandra would do the same for you." Linda placed her hand on his. "You're a rare man, Tony. Sandra is so lucky." Tony, uncomfortable, pulled his hand away. "Thank you, Linda. But I think it's getting late." Though Linda's attempts that night failed, she was persistent. Over the next few weeks, she continued her subtle advances, hoping to catch Tony in a vulnerable moment. The revelation. Unbeknownst to Sandra and Linda, Tony had started noticing Linda's behavior. Feeling uneasy, he hired a private investigator to observe Linda while he was at work. The investigator uncovered evidence of Linda discussing her plans with Sandra during secret phone calls. One evening, Tony confronted Sandra. "Is there something you need to tell me about Linda's stay here?" Sandra froze, her heart pounding. "What do you mean?" Tony handed her a file containing transcripts and recordings of her conversations with Linda. "I trusted you, Sandra. I loved you despite our challenges. But you've betrayed me." Sandra broke down in tears, begging for forgiveness. "I was scared, Tony. I didn't know how else to secure our future." Tony shook his head. "You didn't trust me enough to face this together. Instead, you brought deceit into our home. The consequences." Tony asked Linda to leave the house immediately. To Sandra, he said, "I'll give you time to think about what you've done. But right now, I need space." Sandra moved back to her family home, filled with regret. Linda, embarrassed and angry, distanced herself from Sandra. Tony, heartbroken, focused on his work and sought solace in philanthropic activities. He later adopted a child from an orphanage, finding joy in giving love and support to a child in need. As for Sandra, she learned that wealth and security could never replace honesty and trust. She spent her days trying to make amends, hoping for. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.